Kafue National Park, Zambia, March 2024. A bull elephant charges from behind. The guide accelerates down a narrow dirt track. The elephant gains ground. The truck overturns. Gail Matson, 79 years old from Minnesota, was on the safari trip of a lifetime. She was killed. 5 others were pulled from the wreckage, injured. The safari vehicle does not make you untouchable. Every year, thousands of travelers journey into the wild, seeking close encounters with some of the most powerful animals on Earth. Safari vehicles, guides, fences, and campsites create the illusion of safety. But those boundaries exist only as long as the animals allow them to. When the distance disappears, survival can come down to preparation, instinct, and sometimes pure luck. On July 2nd, 2015, British safari guide Curtis Plum stopped his open-sided vehicle along a dirt road in Kruger National Park, South Africa. A group of tourists had spotted a male leopard resting in the roadside brush. In Kruger, open-top safari trucks are designed with tiered, open seating. The entire safety system of a vehicle-based safari assumes that wild predators view the large metallic structure as a single, neutral object rather than a collection of human targets. The leopard, a solitary ambush predator, rose from the grass and walked directly toward the idling vehicle. It eventually slipped beneath the elevated chassis, disappearing into the guide's blind spot. Plum's passengers lost sight of the animal. Attempting to relocate the cat, Plum leaned over the low side panel of the driver's seat, peering down toward the ground near the front tire. The leopard launched its body upward, scaling the driver's door and sinking its teeth and claws into Plum's right forearm. The sudden leap bridged the gap between the wild environment and the interior of the truck. As the animal hung from Plum's arm, passengers in the rows behind him began striking the leopard with their heavy cameras and travel bags. Plum managed to engage the transmission, put the truck in reverse, and accelerated, dragging the clinging animal backward until it finally released its grip and fell under the tires. Plum survived the encounter, requiring intensive surgery to repair deep lacerations and puncture wounds to his arm. Park rangers subsequently located, tranquilized, and humanely euthanized the leopard. The incident demonstrated that the height of an open safari vehicle provides perspective, not protection. The moment a guide or passenger breaks the outer silhouette of the vehicle, the illusion of safety vanishes, exposing the physical vulnerability that was there all along. On June 25, 2024, 63-year-old Roland Cherry and his wife, Shirley, paddled down the Kafue River in Zambia. They were in the second canoe of a 5-boat guided safari, navigating a quiet, slow-moving stretch of water. Along this 350-kilometer river corridor, an estimated 2,400 hippopotamuses reside. On a water safari, the protective steel shell of a land vehicle is entirely absent. Safety is reduced to a plastic hull millimeters thick, a paddle, and the hope that the animals will remain at a distance. Without warning, a massive force struck the canoe from below, launching it into the air and flipping both occupants into the water. The impact dislocated Roland's shoulder, instantly stripping him of the use of his arm. Before he could orient himself in the current, an adult hippopotamus seized him. The animal dragged him deep under the surface. Hippos use their massive jaws to pin or disable perceived threats in the water. The animal released its grip momentarily, and Roland's life jacket functioned exactly as designed, pulling his body back toward the air. Yet, this safety measure introduced an unexpected hazard. In wildlife survival, this is known as the life jacket paradox. While the vest prevented a disabled, injured swimmer from drowning, It repeatedly returned Roland directly to the surface and straight back into the reach of the territorial animal. The hippo struck again, biting and dragging him under a second time. Roland endured a repeating cycle of submersion and buoyancy, caught between the upward pull of his safety vest and the downward force of the animal. This violence is not driven by predatory intent, but by riverine biology. Roland survived the attack, requiring multiple surgeries to repair deep lacerations and severe shoulder damage. The event demonstrated that on the water, the safety systems of a safari do not isolate humans from the environment. They place them directly inside it. For many travelers, the internal map of danger on safari is populated almost entirely by carnivores, but physical mass and defensive biology can be just as destructive as any predator, and safety guidelines often underestimate the speed at which a peaceful encounter can turn violent. In September 2001, a 44-year-old South African woman checked into a private nature reserve near Krugersdorp. The reserve allowed some of its wildlife to roam through the guest accommodation area. But that day, the woman returned to her lodging and found a zebra standing in the doorway. Zebras rarely inspire the same caution as lions, leopards, or buffalo. But a zebra is not a domesticated animal. As the woman approached, the zebra knocked her to the ground. Then it bit the back of her lower leg. She was taken to a local hospital. Over the following days, damaged tissue had to be removed, and surgeons used a skin graft from her thigh to cover the injury. She survived, but her treatment continued for months. A zebra has no claws. It has no fangs designed for hunting. But its jaws are powerful enough to cause catastrophic injury. The zebra attack exposed the danger of mistaking resemblance for domestication. But some animals create a different illusion, not familiarity, but grace. On March 18, 2016, Carla Berryann and her husband, Don, were on a 2-week safari near Victoria Falls, Zambia. They were walking on foot along a cleared dirt path between lodges. On the trail ahead stood a giraffe, an animal that typically inspires curiosity rather than caution. Without warning, the giraffe turned and closed the distance. The animal did not run with the explosive speed of a big cat. Instead, its long stride allowed it to cross the open ground rapidly. The animal swung its massive neck, striking Carla directly. The danger of a giraffe lies in pure mechanical force. To defend themselves or establish dominance, these animals swing their elongated necks like heavy pendulums. Biomechanical studies indicate that a giraffe can generate peak impact forces exceeding 1,500 newtons. The impact struck Carla with the force of a vehicle collision, causing immediate, critical trauma. Emergency medical teams stabilized her at the scene before she was airlifted to a specialized trauma unit in Johannesburg, South Africa, where she underwent weeks of intensive medical treatment. She survived her critical injuries, but the encounter exposed the structural limits of safety on foot. It challenged the common belief that a non-predatory appearance equals low risk. On foot, the collective protection of the machine disappears, and the environment registers every person as a separate, distinct, moving body. On November 12, 2012, a guided walking group was traveling along the Wolhuter Trail in South Africa's Kruger National Park. The group was roughly 1 kilometer from their camp when they stepped into the path of a white rhinoceros, mother and her calf. Rhinos possess exceptionally poor eyesight, relying on acute hearing and scent to evaluate threats. When a mother rhino perceives a threat to her calf at close range, her default reaction is a rapid, defensive charge. Recognizing the threat, the guides tried to redirect the group, but the animal charged before they could move everyone to safety. The structured order of the walking tour instantly collapsed as the tourists scattered in different directions. One German tourist sought shelter behind a nearby rock, hoping to break the rhino's line of sight. The rhino tracked her behind the stone barrier, overtook her, and knocked her down. The heavy impact left the woman with broken ribs and a severely injured ankle. The guides managed to drive the rhino away, secured the victim, and immediately requested emergency assistance. A rescue helicopter was dispatched to the remote trail, evacuating her to a medical facility where she was treated and survived. In March 2017, wildlife filmmakers Beverly and Derek Joubert were at their remote safari camp in the Okavango Delta of Botswana. They had spent decades documenting apex predators in the wild, developing an intimate understanding of wildlife behavior. Yet, this extensive history in the bush could not alter the biology of an injured animal. After dark, a wounded Cape buffalo wandered into the unlit camp perimeter, seeking refuge. The Cape buffalo is frequently perceived by travelers as a placid, cow-like herbivore. In reality, it is one of the most unpredictable forces in the African wilderness, particularly when injured. Without warning, the buffalo charged through the darkness, striking Derek first. The impact shattered his ribs and fractured his pelvis, throwing him aside. The animal then turned its full force on Beverly, driving its horn under her collarbone and throat, lifting her off her feet and carrying her away into the darkness. Despite his severe injuries, Derek dragged himself up and followed the animal, confronting the buffalo directly until it finally released her. The physical damage to Beverly was catastrophic. She had sustained more than 20 fractures, including severe facial trauma, and had lost roughly 1/3 of her total blood volume. In the pitch black, with limited medical supplies, Derek had to perform basic first aid to keep her breathing. The camp was hundreds of miles away from a major hospital, and the surrounding terrain offered no easy access for vehicles. There were no roads, meaning evacuation required coordinated air support that could not land safely. Beverly was not stabilized for approximately 18 hours. It took a coordinated air evacuation to transport her from the Delta to a specialized trauma center in South Africa. Her survival required multiple reconstructive surgeries, eventually leaving her with 41 screws and 7 plates to rebuild her facial structure. Her recovery required years of physical therapy, exposing the absolute limits of human safety systems in remote regions. The Cape buffalo, an animal that often appears calm and passive to casual observers, remains one of the continent's most protective and aggressive defenders. On July 23, 2016, a family drove through the Siberian tiger enclosure at Battling Wildlife World, a self-drive safari park on the outskirts of Beijing. In this type of facility, the traditional relationship between the viewer and the wild is reversed. There are no deep moats, no high concrete walls, and no heavy iron bars separating the predators from the public. Instead, the visitor's private car functions as the protective cage. Safety relies entirely on a single, non-negotiable rule: passengers must never exit their vehicles. As the family's car traveled along the designated path, an argument broke out inside the cabin. Amid this human conflict, the vehicle came to a sudden halt in the middle of the tiger territory. A 32-year-old female passenger pushed her door open, stepped onto the pavement, and walked around to the driver's side. The security of the enclosure vanished the instant the door opened. A Siberian tiger resting nearby reacted immediately to the sudden appearance of a solitary figure on the ground. The predator launched forward, seized the woman, and dragged her away. Inside the car, the woman's mother reacted out of instinct. She She opened her door and ran into the brush to rescue her daughter. A second tiger immediately struck, killing the mother. Park rangers and specialized patrol vehicles rushed to intervene. The attack was already over. The younger woman survived with permanent physical injuries. The aftermath led to a high-profile legal battle, with the survivor demanding 2 million yuan in compensation. A Beijing court accepted the claim, and park management eventually agreed to settlement terms. The incident redefined the absolute limits of safari tourism, proving that safety is not a permanent state. At the Beijing Wildlife Park, the danger began when a visitor opened the door and stepped into the animal's enclosure. In Sierra Leone, 5 men remained inside their vehicle. The barrier had already failed. On April 23, 2006, taxi driver Isa Kanu was carrying 4 passengers into the forested hills outside Freetown. Local resident Melvin Mama was joined by 3 American contractors. That morning, the men had decided to visit the Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary. Their vehicle followed a narrow road through dense forest. KA had been created to rescue chimpanzees orphaned by hunting and the illegal wildlife trade. Among its residents was Bruno, the sanctuary's 20-year-old alpha male. Bruno had arrived as an infant and became the first chimpanzee cared for by Takugama's founders. By adulthood, he was unusually large, powerful, and dominant within the group. But before Isa and his passengers reached the sanctuary, they encountered something unexpected on the road. Chimpanzees. Not behind a fence, not inside an enclosure, slashing loose in the forest. The men did not yet know that dozens of chimpanzees had escaped from Takugama. Among them was Bruno. Without warning, Bruno charged the vehicle and smashed one of its windows. The barrier between the passengers and the animals disappeared instantly. Melvin Mama threw the broken opening, severely injuring his hand. Inside the vehicle, panic took over. The 5 men abandoned the car and fled on foot. 4 managed to escape through the forest. Isa Kanu did not. The chimpanzees breached the car and mauled him to death. Mama and the 3 Americans survived, although several suffered serious injuries. The incident triggered a major search involving sanctuary workers, police, and soldiers. Many of the escaped chimpanzees were eventually recovered or returned on their own. Bruno disappeared into the surrounding forest. For years, reported sightings continued, but he was never conclusively recovered. Chimpanzees are often interpreted through their resemblance to humans. Their expressions appear familiar. Their hands look familiar. Their social relationships can feel recognizable, but are also intensely territorial, physically powerful animals capable of acting together against a perceived threat. The Takugama attack reversed the usual rules of a wildlife sanctuary. The boundary only protects you while it remains intact. But a vehicle is not the only temporary boundary humans trust in the wilderness. At night, surrounded by friends and sleeping inside a zipped tent, the danger can feel even farther away. On the night of August 30th, 2025, 27-year-old Nicholas Holes slept at a campsite in the Cape Vidal Nature Reserve, located along the northeastern coast of South Africa. He was celebrating a bachelor party weekend with relatives and friends in the dune forests. The reserve, known for its dense coastal bush and abundant wildlife, draws visitors seeking an unshielded experience under the stars. For many campers, a tent provides a psychological sense of security, functioning like a room with solid walls. In reality, that boundary consists of thin nylon fabric, offering no physical protection against the wild. Before sleeping, a small opening was left in the tent zipper to allow for ventilation during the warm night. This minor gap compromised the shelter's integrity. After midnight, 2 spotted hyenas entered the campsite. As powerful, opportunistic nocturnal foragers, these predators do not view a tent as a secure building. They perceive it as a pliable obstacle. The hyenas forced their way through the small ventilation, tearing the fabric and collapsing the tent. Nicholas woke up directly into the middle of an attack, his limbs restricted by the fallen canvas in complete darkness. One hyena clamped its jaws onto his ankle, while the second animal targeted his head and face. Hyenas have specialized teeth capable of crushing heavy bone, turning any close-range physical contact into a dangerous struggle. Trapped under the collapsed material, Nicholas fought at close range. He targeted the animal's eyes and sensitive mouths with his hands, struggling continuously until the predators finally released their grip and backed away. His father, Colin, arrived seconds later with a flashlight, scanning the dark campsite and securing his injured son. The isolation of the reserve immediately turned this medical emergency into a race against time. Traveling along the dark sand tracks and coastal roads, Colin had to drive his son for roughly 2 hours through the night to reach the nearest hospital. Nicholas survived the attack, requiring approximately 70 stitches to repair the severe lacerations to his face, head, and leg. The encounter at Cape Vidal exposes the fragility of temporary shelters. While a tent feels secure from the inside, from the outside, it is only fabric. A single unzipped gap can become the decisive breach that dissolves the line between the campsite and the surrounding wilderness. On August 24, 2015, professional guide Quinn Swales led 6 guests on foot into the wilderness of Zimbabwe's Hwange National Park. This was a walking safari, an experience that strips away the metal shielding of a vehicle and places humans directly onto the soil. In this open environment, safety relies entirely on a guide's ability to read animal behavior and maintain a strict perimeter of distance. During the walk, the group encountered a pride of lions. Among them was a mature male known as Nangzaha. Without warning, the male lion initiated a direct charge. In the open bush, an accelerating lion can cover ground at speeds exceeding 80 kilometers per hour, leaving the group with no time to retreat, reorganize, or even aim a weapon with stable precision. Swales did not run, and he did not allow his guests to scatter, which would have triggered the predator's chase instinct. Instead, he chose to stand his ground, physically positioning himself directly between the charging lion and the tourists. By remaining in place and absorbing the impact of the attack, Swales functioned as the final barrier of protection. The 6 tourists survived the encounter and escaped to safety. Quinn Swales died protecting him. An earlier incident demonstrated that a guide cannot save a 3-ton vehicle from the force of a charging elephant. Yet on the ground, a guide can become the physical shield that saves human lives. In the final breakdown of safari control, survival is sometimes bought at the cost of a human life. Today, modern tourism brings us closer to the wild than ever before. Yet, our safety systems only work if we respect the boundaries they define. The wilderness cannot be managed. It can only be negotiated with discipline and humility. True survival means remembering we are always guests in their world.